Marriage certificate request? Yeah. Uh-huh. Company name, name of person. For marriages and divorces before 1968. Um, you know, I don't actually have the number of the dissolution of marriage. Poop. Approximate date of divorce or 10-year search range. Yes. Complete this. Apostille. Um, you know, I would think that there is some requirements of law. Yes. To be able to identify myself. Now, could could you? Yeah. Uh-huh. Washington State. Homeland Security. Ouch. All of those that have conspired against the enforcement of my right to marry, yes. My right to adopt, yes. And my right to ordination, poo. Now, these civil registers in Kosovo, yeah. hmm the actual individual that signed it was probably known as a civil register, yes. Yes, yes. And I know that Kosovo, a birth, civil registers, facts, personal. Marriage register shall mean the book in which notes related to all marriage entered in the given municipality are kept. Yes, that's where we got the United Nations marriage certificate. I'm going to want you to remove your dissolution of marriage, and I want custody of my sons. And then I'm going to subpoena the United Nations for any and all documentation that relates to the actual marriage itself. Yes. And for all of those that want to make up some bullshit story about us not being married in the United Nations, yes. I'm going to sue you because I'll subpoena every person that went to the marriage. Isn't that right? Chucker chaplains. I will have you put in prison if you ever lie. Now, Washington Student Achievement Council, U.S. Department of Education, recognizing accrediting associations for the purposes of degree granting institutions. Yes. Is my wife still a teacher? Ooch. Because I want the employees of all these accrediting associations. Yes. Higher Learning Commission, Middle States Commission on Higher Learning, Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities, then the National Faith-Based Accrediting Associations. Oh, and then the Commission on Accrediting Association of Theological Schools. Yes. And then there's the National Career-Related Accrediting Associations. Yes. See, when I informed 600 civil rights coordinators, and I emailed the university that I went to, yes. And I emailed the high school, junior high, and high school that I went to. Yes. And I emailed all of those, what are they called again? Superintendents and principals. I think we need to remove all the accreditation of every school of the United States of America. You can all reapply for accrediting. So give me all the accreditations, Office of Supervision of Public Instruction. Yes. Where you say that, well, we do accredit our schools because I would say that you're in violation of the actual accreditation. Yes. And I will sue to have removed the National Council for Accreditation of Teacher Education. Now, Teacher Education Accreditation Council. See, when you use forgery and fraud, yes, and then you conspire against me, I sue to remove all the accreditations of every school in the United States that has the legal obligation to enforce the civil rights of citizens and enforce the parenting rights of those that do want to adopt and do want to get married. Ooch, ooch. Now, I had put something in here, automatic 9-4. Oh, Homeland Security is getting sued. Could you get me the employee from Homeland Security? Now, you stupid fuckers that have a badge on, yes. When I said to you, well, this is See Something, Say Something, Janet Ann Napolitano, Jane Lute, and Tom Ridge. I'm going to want to know all the money you spent since you got going. Yes. Every signature and all the handwriting of every document in Homeland Security. Yes. And then I want to know if you have any dogs that think that right now, because I will sue for the removal of an actual department of the United States of America. Now, when you got going in 2003, doesn't mean that you have to keep going. Yes. And as you well know, you are getting sued. Now, this idea where you're just going to refuse to enforce the laws of the United States, yes, I think that Homeland Security, yes, is legally liable for the enforcement of the laws. And the allowing for my sons to be held hostage for 8 years, yes, and then allowing for the fraudulent issuance of temporary protection orders, yes, where it violates my rights as a citizen and their rights, yes, and then the modification of it, oh, and all the shows you paid for right now. Now, I know you're there and you think, well, you can't sue me. Boo, why don't you give me every employee that's ever been employed in Homeland Security and that 60 to 90 billion dollars a year that you've been spending since you got going? And not just the Patriot Act. There's this whole idea of child exploitation and child abuse. Now, when I told you I wanted my 5 sons, that I'll hold you liable for $1 trillion worth of spending. Do you understand?